We want to just kind of talk about some of the things going on right now. I'm sure some people are tired of kind of the political side of stuff, but it is our country and hell, it's what's going on. So we want to go through all that stuff. We did want to mention before we get going on this, some of the things that Marie and I may say in this live are not our personal views. We want to try and share both sides of things or any side of any topic that we can think of. So that may include me saying things that I don't believe in or Marie saying things that she doesn't believe in. It is for the sake of discussion. It is not to pick a side or anything like that. So for the people that are always in here and know who we are and how we are, if you notice anyone being stupid, say something. Feel free to let them know, hey, that's not how they actually feel. They're just talking, stuff like that. And if that does not work, one of the mods will kick them or we will kick them. So that way we can have a safe discussion and actually be in here and have a good time still and not have to deal with bullshit.
Right.
So,
We're just playing devil's advocate on two different sides of
yeah.
political views. That's all.
You want to talk about TikTok first, since obviously we're on TikTok?
Yes, absolutely. So last week when we were live, we were live on YouTube and we started getting those notifications that TikTok was back up and running. And honestly, my heart skipped a beat.
Man, so it's a love-hate relationship. You know how I feel. TikTok is not, I don't know. It's not always the best thing for everybody, but I like the structure. I do like how we can connect to people on here, and it's a little bit more widespread and relatable, and you can do a little bit more. So yeah, it's great that it's back in some regards. People were going crazy though. I mean,
Right.
people were losing their minds over TikTok.
I was losing my mind as well because I look at it like this. Being a single mother, I don't have outside connection really to hang out with people.
Right.
This is my social life. Like, this is how I connect with other people.
And I will say, obviously, since things can kind of go south at any moment and disappear, it may not be bad if you really talk to somebody. Hey, get phone numbers, add them on Facebook, whatever you got to do, get them other places so you do not lose those connections.
But that's the hard part. Even though people were making videos saying like, "Oh, we're going over to YouTube." People were like sending me text messages, "How do I find the podcast? I can't find you." This and that because they don't want to take the time to follow people on other platforms.
And honestly, I mean, there are a lot of people that TikTok is kind of user friendly. So it's been easy for them to figure out things on TikTok, and going somewhere else, it's hard for them because they don't know how to work all that stuff. So I totally get that. Some people, I mean, if you couldn't go over and just hit subscribe real quick, then I mean, apparently you didn't want to watch. You know what I'm saying? Like some people just didn't want the change. So
I feel like a lot of people were in complete disbelief. They didn't think that there was ever going to be the blackout. And I was one of them, to be honest with you.
right, and then it went into panic mode and was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do and how do I find Kyle and Marie?" And it like just go over to YouTube. It's really easy. YouTube is super super easy also. If any issues ever happen on here, that's where we will be. If for one reason one day we can't get on here for some whatever happens, we will head over there. So there's
Well,
always.
we're still in that like uncertain period, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
So if you follow either one of us and you want to continue to see our content, make sure you look up above in our profiles for the links for the YouTube channel,
Yep.
for Instagram and other places to find us.
People really did freak out. I mean, it was like a nationwide unaliving of some part of them. Do you think that is a bad thing? Because honestly, it shows how many people, and it's some people are here for the community, and that is a good thing. But some people are on here because they are just addicted to scrolling on their phone. And we got to see a little bit of how bad that was.
Right.
So, do you think it's a good thing that it came back?
I'm happy, to be honest with you, that it came back, but I see both sides now. It really taught me a lot about value in the community that I feel like we've put so much into building.
Hmm.
And the other thing is it also taught me to kind of step away from my phone a little bit. I haven't been as active on here this past week.
I was only on to get our previous live so I could edit it. And that was it. That was the only thing I've done on TikTok in the last week since it's came back. I don't get on TikTok a crazy amount. I don't actually even get on my phone a crazy amount like that. I just there is something to be said about being present in the moment and wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, being with the people you're with and not just being on your phone. So I do think just seeing how the reaction was, people people are probably on their phones a little bit too much. It's not a bad thing to like even to practice an hour before bed, put your phone down. Don't use it. Don't use screens. Just do whatever the heck you're doing, read a book, work on a project, do whatever you're doing and don't use your phone. I think that is a good way to kind of decompress.
I agree because sometimes that constant, like when TikTok was blacked out, I kept trying to get on the app to like access it, and it was like just that, it's gone. Like shit.
See, I don't understand that. I didn't do it at all. I didn't try. The only time I finally tried was whenever people said it was back. And it's yeah, I think a lot of people need to try and decompress from their phones. And like I said, this is a awesome tool. It's great to have the community. It's there are so many benefits of having this and a phone and mass communication like we do, but there are other things going on. I want people to remember that because it is very seriously starting to lead into like an addiction level thing for a just mass amount of people, and that's very scary. So I'm telling you, put it down for an hour before bed. It will help you a lot with your sleep quality because you don't have that blue light coming in. That is one of the big things that affects your sleep, your eyesight, you having like racing thoughts whenever you go to bed and stuff because there's still so much information your brain's trying to process. That is all due to television, phones,
Tablet
even
time.
yeah, tablet time, even reading a book on your device, you're still getting that blue light. You have to actually pick up a physical copy or get like the Kindle little notebook things because those don't use a blue light the same way. So I seriously think that everyone should try that. I mean, there should legit just be a dark period for the day for everybody.
Well, I've been trying to do that a lot more, be more present because I am on my phone a lot. I will admit that. And I have been putting it down quite a lot lately because it's taught me like I'd rather be here playing with my kids, doing the things that I worked hard for than being buried in my phone 24/7.
Yeah, I had to practice because I try not to instantly grab my phone. Because you usually text me like super, super early, like 4 o'clock in the morning over here. And it's okay.
I'm up at the ass crack of dawn. Everyone that knows me knows I'm up at like my day starts at 1 in the morning.
Well, and
Thanks to Red Bull.
you're
Sponsor
you're a,
me.
you're ahead of me though too. So it's like whenever it's 6 for you, it's really 5 for me type thing. So whenever I wake up, I usually do not grab my phone right away because whenever I grab my phone, that usually means it's go time. Uh, I've learned that first, even if it's 30, 45 minutes, I'll get up, do my thing, and then I'll go get my phone. I try not to have it before bed. Usually, like me and Shan may watch TV or something like that, whatever beforehand. But I'm with her. I make sure I spend the time with her because otherwise, I'll be trying to play a game or something on my phone, and I can't.
Right.
I'm
It
not
takes
doing
you
it.
to another place mentally
Mhm.
sometimes.
Yeah,
I
and
agree.
I like using my phone. Like I do crosswords and all types of stuff on my phone. Just try and I like the little mental games because it gets my brain working. So I like even doing that early in the morning. But yeah, I definitely see the pros and cons of it. I think that hopefully some people got their eyes opened up by not having it for a little bit. But who knows? We'll see.
And with the new presidency, there's so many changes coming into effect. It's like, I feel like the whole country is in an uproar right now. I've been getting lots of messages from people asking me who I voted for and saying, like, well, if you voted for Trump, I am not going to follow you anymore. Honestly, guys, I didn't vote for anyone. I didn't vote.
The last time we talked about politics on here, there were people all over the place in the comments and our messages, literally all over, coming after us because we mentioned one thing or another. Most of the regular viewers already know, half the time we do not believe in some of the stuff we're talking about because we try and make it a discussion. But there were people all over in there coming after me. I can't remember what it was, but I mentioned something about Trump that I think I agreed with, and everybody was up in arms. It's like I do not side with one political party,
Me
either
neither.
or. I mean, it doesn't matter who anyone voted for. I'm not going to judge you because you voted for Trump. I'm not going to judge you because you voted for Kamala. I'm going to judge you based on your character, your personal character. And I would assume if you didn't kind of get brainwashed by other people, I would assume that you voted based on what best benefits you, your life, and your family and your needs. Because that's what it's all about. It's what is actually going to work for you. Because the whole idea is if there are two people that are running, one person wants to do things one way, another wants to do things a different way, and if more people are going to benefit from one of those ways, that's the person that should be in charge because it benefits more people. And it's turned into a popularity contest now.
Right. And then, like, when TikTok came back, I made a video like, people were saying, hey, before the ban, if you go follow Donald Trump, maybe the more TikTok followers he wakes up with on Inauguration Day, the more he'll want to save TikTok. Yes, I did post those videos. That doesn't mean that that's who I stand behind. Doesn't mean that I'm just happy that so many people didn't need to lose their connection, their safe
Right.
space.
And that's kind of one of the points of doing what we're doing today is you were condemned because you agreed with something that Trump did because it reflected something that you're working with every day. You're on TikTok every single day, and Trump was the one that fixed that. So
Right.
you were obviously happy with him about what he did. That doesn't mean you might not support anything else that he does, but that was the one thing you liked. That should
Right.
be okay. The fact that that's not okay is insane, and that shows how divided everybody is.
Right. And then, like, people were sending me messages about, like, it's a sad day for gay and trans and this. It was a sad day for women too.
Mhm.
Women's rights aren't what they used to be. And having three daughters, that right there doesn't sit well with me at
Yeah.
all.
I mean, I've got daughters. I get it. I want them to have every opportunity in the world. You also kind of have to. Here's the thing. A lot of people have mentioned that if someone is left leaning, they are, whenever they use an example, it is usually to the extreme. So, like, you may be talking about trans people not being able to go into the opposite, group's bathroom, or, a trans man going into a woman's restroom. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people did not agree with that. And so that's one of the reasons they were against the whole trans thing, because they're like, okay, but this is what's happening as a result of this movement and people, being involved in that. So everyone decided, if you didn't agree with the bathroom thing, oh, you must hate trans people. You want them all gone, and you're, all types of stuff. This is a complete opposite. And I think the same thing has happened whenever it comes to women. I think the same thing has happened whenever it comes to race. All of it, just because you agree with Trump doesn't make you racist. It doesn't make you sexist. It doesn't make you against any of those things. It literally just means, okay, you want the bathrooms to be distributed right. That, I feel like that's pretty fair. You want, we can get into the whole, I don't know if we can say the A word, babies, being gone. You may agree or disagree with that, but it's turned into everything has to be so black and white. You can't have
Right.
compromise. And I think that's kind of where the struggle has been. There has to be compromise, and right now it is either you have to hate it or you love it.
I see all sides of people's stories because I try to put myself in other people's shoes and think, how do they feel as a human being?
Right. One of the arguments that I was saying whenever it came to the no babies thing, there was someone who was talking to, it was a guy on the left talking to a chick on the right. So she is of the mind that you should be able to do whatever you want with your body to some extent. Now, she believed, once they hit a certain point, like once they're 3 months old, whatever, once they're 3 months along, maybe that's too far along to get a baby removed, which, okay, that's fair. And the left person kind of attacked her and was like, so do you believe that from the moment of conception, the baby should not be gone? So he was making a point that we should not have birth control either because of that. So removing babies going away and removing birth control would have a huge impact because people would get pregnant whenever they don't want to. And the reason for this was because, like, if you have an IUD, I am a guy trying to explain this. Please bear with me. I only know some details. But if you have an IUD, there is a small chance of like conception for a very short amount of time. Well,
That's how I got my little one.
right. So there is a chance of conception, and it is not supposed to go to term. So what happens is you have the baby in there, and then as it is about to like drop, or the egg's going to drop, something happens. The baby is technically conceived in the definition of the word, but then it's gone. So the argument was, because of all of that, that is now unaliving a baby, which I don't know. Do you agree with that? Do you think if you have an IUD and a baby comes along, you should have to have the baby because you didn't choose that?
I honestly believe everybody should have their own personal choice. It
Sure.
should be your choice that you make with your partner at the time. Or if that person's not there and present, you make on your own. Because I look at it this way, kids are a lot to raise. People don't take into consideration that sometimes accidents happen.
Yeah.
And I am one of those people that got pregnant on Mirena. Like my
Mhm.
IUD displaced. The reason why it displaced was because when I've had 4 C-sections. My third C-section, I had the Mirena placed in. But as your uterus starts to contract down after it was placed during the C-section, the swelling like starts to go down. So it could shift spots where it's supposed to
Oh,
be. So as you start to heal from your C-section and your body starts to get smaller and smaller, the IUD can migrate to where it really shouldn't be. And that's what happened to me. That's how I ended up pregnant.
that's why I think the middle ground is kind of, because again, that's the whole point. There has to be a middle ground to everything. I think the middle ground is you have, like, you can't have a get rid of baby after a certain point. I can agree with that. A lot of people don't find out until, they're a month, 2 months along, whatever. So maybe it be like 3 months, just because that's a good time frame. Now there is the argument that you're unaliving a child. Yes, so maybe whenever it comes to this is so hard because a
I
conversation
could t-
on
I could
TikTok.
literally talk about my own personal experience right here. Like
Sure.
me personally, I've had an experience where the R word.
Right. So you can't get rid of that?
So I did what I needed to do.
Right. There's no reason you should have to come, like, follow that to fruition. I mean, that's horrible for you, for the child. I mean, if you are not going to be able to provide that.
Mentally or like mentally, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But I do know women that have had children that were ard,
Right.
and they're fine. They love that child. It's their child. I just think that it needs to be a personal choice because nobody knows the amount of trauma that was endured.
I agree.
And can
Yeah.
everyone live with that? Like, I am the type of person that I don't think that I would have been able to live with that.
And I agree with that. It's the same kind of with, well, like your situation where you had the IUD in and it was supposed to stop that kind of thing from happening. So it failed. You were not planning on having a child. Now you ended up having her anyways, but you weren't planning on having a child. So if you were not going to be able to provide the quality of life, you weren't with the right partner. So none of that matters, and you just have to get over it and have the child, even though you were taking the proper steps.
Right.
Like, what if you decided against that because you were doing what you were supposed to?
And
It's.
also with the situation with the marina, I don't think a lot of people take into consideration that I was terrified because
Mhm.
when you get pregnant and you have an IUD in, the chances of that IUD implanting into the baby's head and brain are
Mhm.
huge. So I had to go through all these protocols, all these extra tests, all this extra stuff just to make sure that that pregnancy was going to be viable.
And if the baby got farther along and something happened to the baby because of that, now your
Right.
life is also in danger.
Right.
Like, I get it, and again, I only have so much room to talk here. I'm a dude. I don't have
But
to have.
also, as a guy, what if took
Mhm.
all the proper procedures, protocols, and you got someone pregnant, and then you
Sure.
decided, like, you know what, we both don't want to do this. Like, we made a mistake and it happened at the right time. Like, I still think that as a male, you should have that. It should be anyone's choice.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends because whenever you're looking at that, you always have to kind of decide, okay, one, how far along are you? If you're already, 3 months along and you're just now kind of figuring out that something was going on, that's a little iffy. But you have to look at your current situation. If everything is fine, financially you're good, you have a stable job, you can work around things, then it's kind of one of those, okay, we weren't planning on this, but maybe this is something we should end up doing just because we're far enough along. But if you're barely feeding yourselves and you aren't going to be able to feed that baby, if the mom has had kids in the past and maybe the pregnancies were really rough and they weren't supposed to have another one, I mean, that could affect the mom's life. So in those cases, yeah, maybe it is right to terminate it. And
Right.
it doesn't, it it is almost never something that a mom or a dad takes lightly whenever they do have to do that. Most people who have gone through that have been like completely distraught because they had to do that even when it was an accident. It's not like it doesn't affect these people. It's just the right move for them at the time. Now, if you're being completely careless, you're doing nothing to prevent it, you're in the perfect situation, you have all the money you could ever need, and you just were careless and you got somebody knocked up, that's kind of on you. You have to sit with your decisions. The problem is there's no way to measure this stuff, which is why
Right.
that's why I think completely removing the option is kind of wrong, because it all has to be based on the individual. That's a tough one. I mean, obviously everyone is all up in arms about that, and I don't um I personally have not really been affected by it. I'm not going to be affected by it at this time, obviously. Shan can't have any more. She got her
But
tubes tied.
also, don't you think about like your daughter, like
I do.
her future? That's what I think about having three girls. Like that, it's scary. We're living in a scary world having kids this day and age. That's just my own thoughts. It's
My big
scary.
my biggest thing with that with the kids, so I am gonna say, I'm not gonna say how it's involved, but we have been in this situation to some degree, whether it was in my past life with the kids, whatever. We have had to deal with this type of thing. Um, with the kids, I think it's up to them. Now, I can give my 2 cents about where I think they are in life and if they could handle it and if they should do this and where they're trying to go. All that stuff kind of makes a big difference. But at the same time, it doesn't really matter what I say. That is up to them and the father. So, or wife, if one of the boys was to knock somebody up, you know what I mean? So there
Right.
is a lot in that. I would want them to be able to make the choice, and it saddens me that they might not be able to.
The other thing that's scary about this whole administration is how people are fearing literally sending their kids to school or going to a bodega or a certain grocery store in fear that there's ICE agents there that are taking these children.
Yep. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate here because I've watched a lot of both sides, I've read a lot of both sides. Um, you have nothing to fear if you did nothing wrong.
I feel like there's a lot of people that's ancestors came over here and
Mhm.
they really didn't have, they were born here. They weren't responsible for those past choices.
Sure.
So how are you going to punish people?
And I think that's
That and a lot of these people are people that came from other countries. They don't know the native language. They don't even
sure.
know how to speak Spanish or whatever the dialect is of the places that they migrated from. And that's sad because it wasn't their choice. And they're living in fear
Sure.
every day.
And that is one of the things where unfortunately the choices of the parent impact the kid, and I don't always think that's right. It should be very situational. I think if a person got asylum or something and then they had a baby, years after or whatever, I feel like that should be okay. The people who are already pregnant coming over here trying to basically insert themselves so they can stay. Do you think that is right?
I mean, I look at it like this. They're just trying to better their lives. They're trying to get out of a bad situation. And as somebody that's been in so many bad situations in their life,
Hmm.
I I have empathy, I have compassion, I have all of that because they're just fighting for a better life for them and their kids. And as a parent and as a mother, I've put myself in situations where I didn't want to be in, but I did it to fight for my kids.
But even in those situations where you were fighting for your kids, you usually went through the proper channels, right? Like you did what you had to do through court or through the law, whatever.
Right. But also, I've learned how broken the system is.
Sure.
It's a very, very, very effed up system, especially for women.
Sure. And that is kind of the big argument is why did you not do this through the proper channels? And a lot of the arguments are always we couldn't go through the proper channels, which is why we had to come over and seek asylum. But the problem was so many people started abusing that now that's caused a problem because people who weren't really seeking asylum and they just got caught coming over, they just said asylum and it was all they were all good. So that's kind of where the problem has rose is the people that came over here the right way have to be punished now because so many people came over the wrong way. And that is one of those things where is it the greater good because you're getting rid of so many bads and yes you do have to get rid of a few good people, or should we let everybody through and risk more fint getting out here, have more people not able to get jobs because of workers, and it's money that's being affected all over the place.
It is so sad. Like Queen's Love is saying, they're
Mhm.
going out to shelters. Like they are literally very calculated in knowing where they're going. School bus stops. I got a letter that I sent to Kyle earlier from a local school district in this area that is warning parents that if ICE agents are at the bus stop, do not tell your children do not get off the bus.
Right.
And
And
that's scary. I can't imagine because as a mother, knowing that that's possible, that because of a choice that an ancestor made, that my kid could potentially not come home from school, I
and
don't sit well with that. I'm sorry, I don't.
I do think there are a couple of things that should happen. One, you can't go after the kids. And regardless, no matter what, I know it's a tactic, but you can't go after the kids. Not so much, it's more because other people are going to take advantage of it. So, what if some predator went out, had a uniform like an ICE agent, and then went and tried to get one of these kids? Well, everybody thinks ICE just took them, but really, they're going into traffic or something.
I
That's
just don't like the way that they're doing it at all. I just think that people are still going to continue to get into this country no matter what. They're going to figure out a way. And
sure.
for the ones that are here, it it's scary. I have so many friends on this app that are living in fear right this second, like scared to go to a bodega type store in their area. They said they're completely empty. Certain restaurants, businesses, like where people are making amazing ethnic foods and this and that, but people don't want to show up to work because half of the work is scared.
Well, and the hard part is how is this going to affect the economy? Like, how is this going to affect farming? Because a lot of farms, restaurants, food related industries have a lot of people who are not here legally.
Right.
And now those places are going to have nobody. You can always say, okay, well, those jobs go back to American workers. We have quite a few jobs for American workers, and they still aren't taking them. There are
Right.
people who want to work and can't find a job, but there are a lot of people who just don't want to work anymore. And so, as much as people say, foreigners are taking our jobs and all this stuff. No, you just aren't going out and getting the job and that's our own failing because it's the welfare, the people that take advantage of welfare, the people that take advantage of all these systems that have been put into place. And it's like there are a lot of people that use that stuff the right way and are just trying to move forward with life and they use that to take care of themselves and their family. There are a lot of people that abuse that. So
Right.
it's kind of a broken system altogether, which is why I think the only way to really find a middle ground with that, you have to draw a firm line in the sand about who can and cannot stay. First off, there has to be, whether some people don't like it or not, I think there really has to be a firm line drawn on if you can actually stay. I don't think they need to be going after the kids. They honestly should probably only be able to take people if it's a full family unit, so at least everybody is still together, because that's another thing. People are being separated so much, and it's hard. And this is all this going into every hotel and homeless area and bodega and everything. This is all taxpayer money that is going and funding this. So we're paying for all this stuff to happen
The
too.
things that I would like to see with this administration are better prices for food and stuff like that. Make things like we need to focus on. I think the cost of living is just through the roof right now,
Yep.
especially when you're on a limited income. It is very hard to take care of kids on a limited income.
One of the things that Kamala was planning on doing to kind of prevent that was upping the child tax credit, so you would get $6,000 per child. One of the reasons why I was kind of iffy about that was because, yeah, that's cool. That would help some people, but so many more people take advantage of the system that would that cause people to have more kids or be a little bit less careless because, oh, they know they're going to get a big check every year, so they can have as many kids as they want. You know what I mean? So there's this balancing act in that regard, because if more money was out there for people, the spending would go up. The economy would kind of stabilize because all these people would have that cash. But this is all still coming from the government, who doesn't have money either. We're so far in debt, it's not even right. It's ridiculous amounts of money.
Right. And it's like, there's people out there that are struggling just to make it day by day
Mhm.
by day to pay bills. And I just really think that the focus needs to kind of shift a little bit onto the things that really matter.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why it's really disappointing that Vivek is no longer like part of the I don't know, group to kind of reshape America, because so if you didn't know, he got fired like instantly, or he was going to go on with Elon to try and figure out this whole economy thing. He made a tweet that was, I can't even remember what it was about. It wasn't the best thing to say though, and he just got pushed out instantly. And I don't know if it was really because of the tweet or if it was because of something else, because kind of what I was thinking was, I think he wanted to make such radical change that everybody else was looking at him like, dude, you're crazy. You can't do that. You're going to start affecting our money. You're going to start affecting, us being able to live and be comfortable and all that stuff. And these are people that have been in power for a long time, and they want to stay in power, and they don't want to lose their money. So once he started talking about all this stuff that would actually affect them, they said, nah, you got to get out. And I think that
Right.
hurt us.
Right.
Do you think Elon can fix the economy? What do you think about him being our like chief financial advisor?
Honestly, it terrifies me.
Why so?
I just think that the person that money hungry, greedy, just I don't know. Something about that man just terrifies me. And I don't know. Giving people like that power,
I don't know how money hungry he is. If So Elon is really, really interesting. First off, we got to get it out of the way. I don't know if you actually saw this because you and I had talked about this. His salute. Did you see after he like made his little address to everybody, he did the salute thing, like the German. Uh,
I didn't watch any of it. I'm not going to lie.
so Elon got, remember this. as and I wish I could have like screamed this to everybody. Remember, this dude is autistic. So he is going to have some quirks that are kind of related to him. And he's probably going to do things that people might be like, what the heck? So he got super excited and kind of had a moment where he hit his chest and then put his arm out up like it was the NAZI times. And he did it twice. He did it in front of everybody, turned his back, and did it again. I do not think that's what he is. I do not think that's what any of these people are. I honestly believe he was so excited, but he's so awkward. He didn't know what to do in the moment, and his brain is working on a different level than a lot of other people's. He is not thinking of things the same way. So what we instantly would jump on and be like, "Oh, that's some evil thing." I think he was just making a movement and was excited. And a lot of people didn't give him the benefit of the doubt.
People overanalyze things a lot of times, and you know, I don't know because I didn't see any of that. I didn't watch it. I didn't pay attention to it, to be honest with you.
You
But
should.
moving forward, I really truly think that I will definitely start voting because I didn't vote. And but does our vote really count? Does it really count? That's where I'm lost.
We hope so.
Right, but does it?
Trump made a weird comment, and again, this is going into that analyzing everything, but Trump made a really weird comment, and I can't remember what state it was in, but it was one that he was kind of worried about. And he randomly started talking about Elon and the polls and how Elon's really good with computers and all that stuff. And then he was like, yeah, Elon's really good with those computers. And we ended up winning that state and all that stuff. Why did you say that? Like, what was that supposed to mean? Because Trump also rambles sometimes and just says kind of nonsense. And I think that's where people run into like his weirdness. But I don't know because maybe it's all rigged and our votes don't matter.
I
Maybe
don't
it's
know.
all
I've heard different things from different people, but moving forward, I am definitely going to make sure that I vote moving forward. I honestly didn't think I could vote because of my past charges. Because I do have charges that are I don't know. I was always told that with certain charges you can't vote anyway.
but is that man? I'm gonna have to look that up because
Somebody debated me on that and said that I was wrong. So I probably am wrong. I just was always told that if you're a felon that you can't do certain things and voting was one of them. And I am a felon.
a felon can't vote. But first off, does that change depending on state? But also, is it after a certain amount of time you can?
I haven't been in any trouble. It's been like 11 years since I've been in any trouble. But it was always like put into my head that you cannot vote.
So Tara said yes. Cade said as long as you served your time, you're good. Ryan saying you can't. Mainly depends on the charges. It's if you unalive somebody.
I do have felony charges on my record. They're from like 11 years ago. It's more related to my addiction, all of my charges. It probably does depend
On
state
what
to
it is.
state. But
Yeah.
also, who do you reach out to find that information out? I'm wondering. Like, because honestly, moving on from this point on, especially after all these things that are going on, I want to start voting. I want to start getting into some of these things.
Wouldn't you be able to find that out when you register to vote though? Because you go and register and it's going to tell you if you can't vote. Like, you know what I mean? So you should be good. I bet you it is a state thing and it probably does depend on what you've done.
And the amount of time maybe since a new charge. But Tara, thanks
Yeah.
for letting me know that because honestly, it's something that was always put into my head. So I just thought that my voice didn't matter, but it does matter. All of our voices should matter.
Okay, back. I want to get into the economy thing because I really want to figure this out. What would you like to see out of the Trump administration's economy changes?
Honestly, we need more affordable housing. We need the price and cost of living to come down a little bit. I feel like the prices of groceries are through the roof. The amount of money that I spend at the grocery store alone is sometimes more than I even have coming in.
A lot of the housing has to do with a lot of the disasters that have happened lately. A lot of it also is the prices of things has gone up so much, like renters. So I was having this discussion with somebody on Facebook like 2 weeks ago, where they were saying the landlords like just charge astronomical prices and all this stuff, and they mentioned how much they paid, and it wasn't really all that crazy. And I was like, you got to understand that landlord has to one pay off the house, they have to pay the mortgage on it. Then they have to kind of do a backup for their property taxes whenever that comes. Then they also have the backup for what if something breaks down? This is how much more it needs to be. And then they have to pay themselves a meaningful amount so that they can eventually pay off the place and actually make money on it. So it's, I think a lot of people don't get how much kind of goes into it. I deal with a shit ton of landlords every day and I see it a lot. The only way you can actually come up in real estate is either by getting some really, really beneficial property, or you have people stay in a place for a long time and you have a whole bunch of places. That's the only way. If people are constantly coming in and out, that price has to skyrocket because every time someone leaves, you then have to redo the place and fix all the things
Right.
damaged. And people are careless nowadays. People just tear up places whenever they're renting. And that is one thing that has kind of drove the housing market up. And then, of course, if you're trying to buy the house, the price of everything has gone up. So the prices of houses naturally have to go up. People are trying to sell and move and do all types of stuff. And the market's fluctuating so much and it's been so shitty as it's fluctuated. It's kind of just getting worse. We need people to actually start buying, but no one can afford that.
Right. It's so hard to get ahead in today's economy. And I hope that that's one of the changes that he makes for people that do live paycheck to paycheck.
Hmm. The food thing is really interesting too, because that could go a couple of different ways. Because if we won the tariffs, I think the tariffs are the worst idea ever. The tariffs almost 100% will end up costing us more money. It'll make the price of everything go up. Um, if we are getting rid of some of the illegal workforce, maybe for a little bit, it could cause prices to go up on a lot of the food items, especially like your fruits and vegetables and kind of things from farms and all that stuff. But at the same time, after a few years and things stabilizing and people actually taking over those jobs, maybe it could go down a little bit. It kind of depends because a lot of the people that are working illegally were also taking a lower wage, which makes it so whenever regular, people go in, now they have to meet a certain limit and then the price of goods has to go up.
Right.
So Alexander said, nope, that's actually not true. The price is going up and there's an expo. Yeah, the price is going up. That's kind of what we're saying. We're saying that because of these things happening, it could go up for a while and then could potentially go down. But there are a lot of reasons why it could also continue to kind of skyrocket, which the average person can't afford anymore. Like,
Right.
I don't know about you, but I know how much you're spending on groceries. You're spending too much anyways. But at the same time, that shit is just a lot of money now. Middle class isn't even middle class anymore. I feel like middle class is moving to like lower middle class. Almost everybody under upper is going down kind of a peg.
Like I'm at the point now where I really have to make some solid decisions on a way to either go back to school
Mhm.
and get some sort of career for myself, because in order for me to keep doing what I'm doing by myself for my kids, I'm going to need another source of income for sure.
Right. Alexander said that he already explained how prices of food and gas were going to go down. I feel like I saw that, but maybe not. I'm going to have to check that out because I'm really curious what else he said. There's been so much to try and digest lately. You kind of just have to pick your things and figure out what the heck you're doing. Um, Schooling is another thing. I don't know if he has a plan for people who have student loans or people who are going to school, because that was kind of a big thing that the Democrats were supposed to be doing, was making that more manageable for people. And I don't actually know what happened with that because we haven't had to deal with it for a while.
See, I need to figure something out. I'm at that point where it's like I either jump and make like a move and sign up for school, or I really need to start doing something to secure a better future.
Yeah, what do
And
you
I'm
think?
late in the game because here I am, 44 years old, late in the game. But you know what? I'd rather start over now while I have the opportunity.
Alexander said that he does have a plan for education for kids to adults, and then spoke on the loans for college and all that stuff. I'm really curious what he wants to do, because if there's a solid plan, that could be huge for a lot of the people that are going into the workforce and are struck because of all their student loans. I mean, that is a huge, huge thing that could kind of bridge the gap for people who are struggling so much financially.
Somebody told me that there was incentives now to going back to school. Like I could probably get my education way cheaper now.
Why have you not started yet? Is it just too much going on and it's
I feel like I haven't been able to take a deep breath, to be honest with you. It's been a lot of extra chaos in my everyday life. My kids have constantly been sick. Like,
yeah,
how
that
would I even show up to school? Because I got a child home with me pretty much every single day for like the past 2 months. No joke.
I don't think you would be able to actually go to school.
Right. I don't either. I would have to do it virtually.
Yeah, which a lot of that is an option nowadays. I mean, that's a
Thank
very good
God,
option.
because that's the only way that I would be able to do it.
Have you looked into it though? Like,
Yeah,
do
I
you?
have. I have been looking into different things. Actually, my therapist is trying to guide me into certain things. Because honestly, I would like to go into like a social work field
Right.
where I could really do what I'm already doing for free all day, but get paid for it.
Right. No, and I get you. I think online would be good for you. Like Ricky said, community colleges. So one of the best things you can do, and I think a lot of people have started figuring this out, but since school is so expensive, going to a community college for like 2 years to get all your gen eds out of the way is huge. And then you can take all your actual like courses that you have to take for your major somewhere else.
So that's what I really got to figure out, because years ago I was enrolled in college. I went to college for 2 years and I was doing all my prerequisites for nursing. So I
Sure.
did like English, all my anatomy, physiology, all the scientific classes. And then my boyfriend at the time got into a really bad car accident and had a brain damage. So I jumped out of school to take care of him, and then I just let it all go. So I wonder if I could potentially get some of those credits from years ago. I don't know if I lost everything or if it still could count for something.
I think there is a gap. Like after a certain amount of time, they do
It's
go
been,
away.
dude, it's been like over 25 years. So I don't know.
Yeah, that is a long time. People are saying you can. I feel like I had a little gap whenever I was in school, and it was a couple of years for some of my gen eds, and I thought I did have to take some of that again. I think you have to test into it though. Like if it's been a certain amount of time, they will transfer if you can get past a certain point on a
You know
test.
where I'm going to struggle? Math. I can't even do my third grade math homework with my kids. Like, my son's homework, I can't even look. I can't. Chat GPT is my best friend when it comes to trying to help him.
Cool. All right, guys. Thank you,
Thank you all
everyone.
for joining.